All right, good morning everyone. Welcome to the garage. Today I've got a 2005 Honda CRV in here, my daughter's car, and she came to me last week, says, Dad, my car's making a weird noise. So I went out and drove it. Sure enough, the rear brakes are shot and they're well beyond the squeal. So they're just grinding and rattling and bumping. So she didn't tell me early enough. So that's probably gonna mean discs, the whole nine. So to get started here, I backed it into the garage where I can work on it. Put a front block under the front tire. That way it don't roll on me. And then anytime you're lifting something like this up, like this one, I fight the urge to do this and lift it in the center. But this time around, I went ahead and lifted it in the center because I'm gonna end up doing both wheels. And then if you'll see, I put a jack stand on both sides, and then I lowered the jack slightly down to it, just kissing it, where it's got pressure on it, and then I kept pressure also on the jack, so there's 3 positive points of contact there before I get around messing with it. And that's the biggest thing always, is just, you know, safety first. Anytime you're working on a car or anything like this, if you don't respect it, it will kill you dead. So we moved on, and now we're getting ready to gather up and go ahead and pull off the rear tire. All right, first things first, you got to drag out. I'm using Impact. It's just a Ryobi Impact that I got as homeowner. It works for everything I need it to do. But if you're not, make sure I would crack these lugs loose before you lift the back of the car off the ground, or else the wheel will spin. You can engage the parking brake so it doesn't do that, but you'll still be messing with it. It's easier just to leave it on the ground and then only lift it as high as you need it to go to do the job you need to do. You want to make sure you look in your glove box. Most of these wheels, especially if it's like the EX or something like that, and it's got the fancier wheels on it, they're gonna have a wheel lock. This one looks like this. You buy these cars used, whatever, 2005. You buy these things used, it's gonna have a wheel lock. Usually you can find them in the glove box. Get that out before you start messing around, because once you get this off the ground and on jacks and all that stuff, you don't want to be climbing in and out of it that much, as little as possible. And it's really easy. You look, the rest of these lugs, they're all pretty normal. Except this one here. This one's different. All right, so I went ahead and got all the lug nuts off. I like to keep them just kind of together and well out of the way, because it's inevitable that while you're messing around over here with your brake and all of that, you're just gonna end up kicking them and they're gonna go spreading all over the place. It's just easier. It's frustrating when you do that. Sometimes these things will lock in here, so it's kind of hard to get the like C's because they're old. You just got to give them a pop on the top. This one wasn't so bad. You just pull it off. And now you've got your disc down here, your brake caliper right here. So we're gonna be dealing with that. Inside there is gonna be my brake pads and then the disc. So we're gonna go ahead and work on getting all of that off. Now, one other thing I like to talk about is I always put this tire up under the car, rim side down, just in case anything happens, it comes down. It won't go all the way to the ground with me pinched underneath it. It's another little bit of safety. So now I got to work on getting these discs and everything apart. You'll see there's some screws in here that Honda puts on from the factory. A lot of times they'll be rusted and you got to just cut them out or something like that. And then a lot of people just don't put them back in. I've done it both ways. It's never been an issue. So anyway, now I'm gonna work on getting the rear caliper off, which there's some caliper mount bolts back here, right there. In the back, there's 2 caliper mount bolts. We're gonna mount it right under here. I don't know if you can see where my fingers are there. One there and one on the bottom. So we'll work on getting those loose. Once those come loose, this caliper should slide back and out of the way. All right, so we're taking things off here. And with this particular car, it turned out 14 millimeter was what ended up taking these back bolts out loose. And as you can see, I got them out. They're right there. These I'll put off to the side. Now I'll grab those and stash them with the rest of the bolts so I don't kick them later. But one other thing we just want to talk about is this rubber line that you see running back here. Goes all the way up. There's a mount bracket bolt right there that just mounts this line into there, makes it solid so it doesn't move around. You want to go ahead and make sure you pull that bolt out and loosen this up. That way when this caliper comes off, we can move it back up out of the way and just tie it back with some wire or string, or they make a clip for it. I can't find mine right now, so I'm just going to use some safety wire that I have laying around, and we'll wire that back up out of the way. and then it'll be moved, and then we can start working on getting our disc off. As I told you, those screws are in there. They help keep that disc all the way up good and tight, but thankfully I had a Phillips head impact that I could put on and go ahead and knock them out slowly to the rear, just nice and easy, because it's real easy to strip these things out. A lot of times when you run across this, these are going to be stuck. It's just how it happens. I mean, these things are out exposed to the elements. This car grew up in the Northeast, so it's got had a lot of rust up in it. I mean, I've already replaced shock struts, the whole nine on this thing, and it's been a lot of work. So, but here we are. At this point, I'll be able to pull those screws the rest of the way out and go ahead and slide this disc just the rest of the way off. It's going to be really hard to do while holding on to the camera. Oh, dropped it. I will find it in a second. There it is. Back this one out. Keep these clear off to the side so I don't kick them. They're going to be hard to lose, or easy to lose, excuse me. And then, as I was telling you, that thing is rust has got that thing just beaten on there. So I'm going to have to work on getting that off. I may have to take a little torch and heat this up just a little bit to get it to slide back from that hub. Okay, well, got it off of there. Now, if you remember way back when I was talking about taking the lug nuts off, how I said to just do it when it's down on the ground, or you can just go ahead and engage your parking brake, your emergency brake. Well, this is your emergency brake. Now, I'm looking at this one. Doesn't look like it's too bad. I think I'm probably just gonna leave everything alone in there. Nothing's loose, making a rattling noise. But I will get my air compressor out and just blow out a bunch of crap. Use my wire wheel and clean all that up, or wire brush, excuse me. Clean all that up as best I can, and then blow it out before I bust out the new components and put it all back together. All right, so we got it all apart. As you'll see, I took and used my wire brush. I didn't go crazy with it, but I cleaned that out, used my air compressor, blew a whole bunch of crap and rust and junk out of there. But a couple of things to think about. Now, I got the old one off. Go ahead and look in there and look. See, you can see where that emergency brake rides inside that hub right there. Make sure, just look at it. Make sure, it'll tell you a lot, whether or not you're grinding, any of that kind of stuff. So look it over. Look over the outside, see where your grinds are. So this one's not so bad. I think the major problem on this car is the driver's side rear brake, but this one's not so bad. Now I get my new one out, get it out of the packaging, get it ready to rock and roll, look it over. One thing I didn't show you is I wiped it all down with a rag, just cleaned it off, because it comes from the factory. It's gonna come with an oil on it because it keeps it from rusting. Yeah, makes sense, right? You'd be upset if you bought something, got it home, opened the package, and it was all nothing but rust. But I was talking about those screws earlier that went right here that I had to take out. Make sure that we align this. When we put this back on, we're gonna have to align the screw hole, which on this one is right next to that top lug. Make sure they're aligned in the right place, because since those screws were there, I'm gonna go ahead and put them back in. Like I said, you know, I've done a lot of these cars and I've never, and that screw is rarely there, but on these it is there, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue to use it. Now, one thing to keep in mind if you're gonna continue to use it is go ahead, throw a little anti-seize in there so that possibly if you gotta take them off again sometime, you can, right? It's not gonna just be seized up and rusted in. Now, one other thing, this little plug is on this particular rear brake, and I have no idea what it's for. I'm gonna put it back in there because it came off of there, but I don't know why it's there. So if some of you guys know, let me know in the comments. I'd like to learn something new every day, right? The disc is back on, all set. Those two screws are in. They're anti-seized and then screwed in with a screwdriver. I just put them in with German torque, Guten tight. That's all I did, just tighten them down. I don't want to torque them or anything crazy. I don't want them to get stuck in there in the future. I put this little plug back in. Now we're gonna move on to the brake. As you can see, I've got it safety wired up here. I'm gonna go ahead and take these two mounts, mount them back up, and then I'll pull the caliper off of the caliper mount, and that will make it easier to go ahead and replace my two pads, as well as go ahead and suck the piston, squeeze the piston back down so that I can slide the whole thing back over the disc. I went ahead and remounted back here the two mount bolts for the caliper, okay? And then I popped these two caliper bolts loose. There's one on top and one on bottom. They're probably gonna be fairly tight. So I'm gonna screw these out. Now, pull out like that. See, there's one there. Pull out the top one. Okay, just like this. It's out. Look, those bolts are pretty clean. And then we should be able to just slide this caliper off just like that. And now we have the caliper. If you look, one of the pads stayed in the little mounting bracket like it's supposed to. And the other one is with the caliper. We'll go ahead and take that off the caliper. Follow through all the procedures and steps for that. We'll take it off. And then I'll bring you back and show you how I reseat the piston in these calipers. This piston down inside there is out because as the brake linings wear over time, it just stays out there where it needs to be engaged, so it's easier, or less travel, so that when you hit your brakes, they're there, right? There's multiple ways. Each car is a little bit different. Some of them they have to screw in, some of them it's just a whole bunch of different ways. This particular one, this clamp will work, and if you can see that down there, as I screw this clamp down, that piston returns into the housing. So you're just pushing the hydraulic pressure back up into the system. So this one, this particular car, the pad, the way the pad sits in there, it has to be reseated before I can get the pad all the way out. And I'll show you that here in just a second. So I just screw this down. It's not tight, it goes pretty easy. Just take it to where it's as far down as it'll go. Don't go too far. If you go too far, chances are it may seize up and never come out of there, and then you got a bad caliper. So, and then once I've done that, I will take the clamp loose, up out of the way, and then I should be able now to pop this out. You see, this one has this particular one has these little sets that drop inside there, and that connects it tightly to the inside of the piston, which is a pretty neat system. So that's what that looks like. And this pad doesn't look too bad, but since I've got new ones, I'm gonna go ahead and replace them. All right, so I got that pad out of there, and you'll look in there, there's a shim that sits in there, a little slide, and that's what your actual pads will slide on it back and forth when this piston is pushing pressure, hydraulic pressure to the brake. So we put that up out of the way so we don't drop it and break the hydraulic line. And then you have that pad that just locks up in there like that. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when you buy new pads, they're gonna come in a set. Now, with this particular vehicle, you can't screw it up. You got one that's got this lock on the back and one that does not. So the inner and an outer. There's one for the other side. Now look, here's those shims too. It gives you new ones, so go ahead and replace those. But if you're doing like I learned the hard way on my F-150 that you can screw those up and it'll go back together, but it's going to smoke and you have to take it apart, figure out what you did wrong. But anyway, we'll go ahead and pull the old one off of there, put our new componentry in, and then we'll set our pads in. Okay, so on the caliper, I've got my new pad in there. I got my new little slidey piece up there. I don't know exactly what that's called. I replaced it. If it came with it new, go ahead and replace it. Now, if you look at the mount for the caliper itself, let's set that so it don't fall. Okay, look at the mount. These are called pad abutment shims. So your pads are gonna sit on there and slide back and forth. There's two of them. I already got one of them off. It's right there. The second one's off. Now, I come over here. The kit came with new pad abutment shims. Okay, so we're gonna put those in, and then we'll put our next pad in. Now look, you'll see that when you look at this, it's got a rounded edge on the front. It goes forward. You can't really mess that up. That's rounded, kind of match it, right? And it'll just slide in there on the new shim, just like that, and it'll hold it tight so that you can go ahead and slide your caliper over top of your disc and go ahead and screw it all, or bolt it all back together. All right, I got my new shims in, top and bottom. Now I'm just gonna set my outer pad. It's got these little grooves, top and bottom. On those little grooves, there's one on the bottom, one on the top. You'll slide that up in there. It's gonna be a little bit snug, but that's what it needs to do. That way it holds it, see, it doesn't fall out of there. Now I grab my caliper and then I slide it back in just like this, top and bottom. Slide it back into place. Then I get my bolts that I put off to the side so I didn't kick them and have to hunt for them. And I slide my bolt, line it up, and always start every bolt by hand. Oh, I got them in and that in. Now I'll go ahead and tighten them all the way down. Grab a wrench, put a wrench on this nut because you see that it spins. Well, that's the slide up in there that this caliper is going to slide back and forth on. So I'll tighten this, I'll hold this, tighten this, again at the bottom, hold here, tighten here. I'll look up, we'll go ahead and look up the torque specifications for it. All right, so a quick Google search told me that these back two actual mount bolts are 41 foot-pounds, and these two bolts here are 16 foot-pounds. So I got out my foot-pound torque wrench, went ahead and set it to 41, and then we'll slide it back in there. If I can do this one-handed, put it on, go down to the handle, push it till it clicks. That one's torqued. We'll bump it down to the bottom one. Torqued. All right, so then I set my torque wrench to 16, 10, and 6. Go ahead and put it on this here bolt. Get it on there. Click. Okay, go ahead and put it on the bottom one. Click. So all those are torqued. Okay, we'll pull it off. Set it off to the side gently so we don't bang up our torque wrench. Okay, and then we'll look it over. We got that in. Those are in. These are in. Brakes are in. New disc is on. Okay, last thing to do, we're gonna go ahead and reconnect our little line mount right there. Go ahead and tighten that down so it's held securely out of the way. Go ahead while I'm here and inspect it. I mean, it looks like it's pretty good shape. I replaced one of these because it popped about 2 years ago. So, but check it out and everything's good. Let me bolt that back together. Okay, now I set the tire back up in there. Got it on the lugs. I'll go ahead and take my lug nuts and start putting them hand tight on. I want to start them. I want to thread them on by hand first. You never want to just stick it on there a little bit and then hit it with an impact or something like that. And then when you do tighten these down, you want to do a skipping pattern. So here, skip one here, skip one here, and then here, and then here, and then you're going to tighten them down in the same manner. All right. Okay, so I'm off to the other side. I said I was just going to do this one and not bring y'all along because everything's done the same. However, got the wheel off, and I just wanted to show you, because we looked at that disc from the other side, it looked just fine, right? Like, didn't seem to have any major issues. Well, this is what a bad one looks like. You see there, it's all ground and grooved and done really bad. And then you can look down in there and see those brake pads are worn pretty low. So that's why this car was making all that racket. Everything else is pretty much the same as the other one. Rusty caliper. The screws are still in this one as well, so I'm gonna have to work on getting them out. But everything else will be the exact same as the last one. I just wanted to show you that and show you what it looks like when it's bad. Why it was making that. Wasn't even making a squealing noise. I mean, she drove it past the squeal and down to just a standard grinding noise. So there you have it. All right, we're gonna finish it up now. So back on the ground, took all of the mounts and everything out. Wheels are on the ground. Now I'll show you why I want to torque this now versus while it's up high. So I got my torque wrench set. I think it was 80, 81 or something like that. Torque, and this is just a test. My impact is it will torque it above the required torque. So I'll just click. We'll go around and do these. Torqued. All right, now. And see, I'm doing the star pattern, like I said. Okay. And then we'll do this one. It's on. Now, remember we got our lug, the fancy one, so they can't be stolen, right? Which, you know, take that for what it's worth. Put that on there. It's done. Now, big thing, don't forget to take this guy and put it wherever you want to keep it. In my particular car, I just slap it in the glove box. That way it's always with the car. That way if you ever have to change a tire or something, you have the dang locking lug. So, all right, now we're gonna go ahead and pull it out and get ready to take it on down the road for a test drive. That's it, pretty simple. All right, here we are out on our little test drive after we did the rear brakes on this 2005 CRV. So a couple of things I just want to touch base with. As soon as you get in the vehicle to start it, you'll put your foot on the brake and that brake pedal will go all the way to the floor. It'll be spongy, don't worry about it. Go ahead and start it. And then what I do is I'll pump the brake just a little bit. I don't even think you have to do that, but the system needs to run up and it needs to build pressure again. Because remember, you push the piston inside that hydraulic cylinder all the way down when you put the new pads in there. So it needs to rebuild pressure and come in contact again with the new disc. It's not a big deal. It should fix itself within the first couple seconds of you starting the vehicle. But one other thing is after you've done your test drive, and in this particular case, it works. I haven't got any more noise, the brakes feel great, everything's working as it's supposed to. So, one thing to keep in mind, and I talked about it a little bit earlier in the video, when I get home and park, you may get out of the vehicle and you may smell just a little bit like a smoking smell or something like that. Not to worry, that's normal for new brakes and new discs, right, the first time you drive it. Because remember, I told you that disc has that oil from the factory on it, so that's got to burn off, and then the pads are kind of digging and grinding fresh marks and stuff into those new discs. It's not a big deal. It should stop within a few minutes. And then if you drive it again and it's still doing it, then you may have done something wrong. You have to get in there and look and try to figure it out. But anyway, everything's good with this car. So now I'm on my way back to the house and we'll close it up from there. Okay, there it is. Back from the test drive. Everything checks good. The brakes work perfectly and we're in money. But that's it for that video. The next one will be on my motorcycle. It's a 1998 Harley Davidson Heritage Softail Classic. I've got some tire issues I got to work on. Long story short, there's a leak in one of those spokes, and that's a tubeless spoked wheel, so I've got to take it back apart and figure out what's going on with that. But there'll be more videos to follow, because in order to do that, I had to find this guy on Marketplace, and it's going to need a little bit of restoration, get fixed up in order to take that wheel off of that rim. So I'll have to make that usable. I had to hunt this thing down. It's used, Harbor Freight, manual tire changer. It's missing a piece, so I got to make a piece that drops in from the top right here, drops in down, that you use your pry bar down there on the ground. That's how you pry the tire off the rim itself. So I got to make that piece, but the price I paid for the machine, I'll go ahead and figure out how to make the piece. No big deal. And then the last thing I'll probably do coming up is a video on this bike in and of itself, because I've had this for a couple years now, and a lot of the work I've done to it, I wasn't doing YouTube at the time, and so I didn't really document a lot of it. But there'll be a bunch of videos, probably a whole series coming on this bike here in the future. But since I've had it, I've done lifters, I've transitioned it from an electronic ignition back to points. I know there's some people that are hit or miss on that, but it seems to work like a champ for me. I've done windshield mounts, I've changed bags, I've done a whole bunch to this bike. So I have pictures and all that. So I may just make an overview of it and give a little bit of the history and backstory on it. If you want to see that, well, just stay tuned, and eventually that one will come out too. So like, subscribe, do all those things, and just keep doing work.